विश्वं दर्पणदृश्यमाननगरी तुल्यन्निजान्तर्गतं पश्यन्नात्मनि मायया बहिरिवोद्भूतं यथा निद्रया यस्साक्षात् कुरुते प्रबोधसमये स्वात्मानमेवाद्वयं तस्मै श्रीगुरुमूर्तये नमः श्रीदक्षिणामूर्तये बीजस्यान्तरिवाङ्कुरो जगदिदं प्राङ्निर्विकल्पं पुनः मायाकल्पितदेशकालकलना वैचित्रचित्रीकृतं मायावीव विजृम्भयत्यपि महायोगी वयस्वेच्छया तस्मै श्रीगुरुमूर्तये नमः श्रीदक्षिणामूर्तये तस्मै श्रीगुरुमूर्तये नमः श्रीदक्षिणामूर्तये। ॐ सहना भवतु सहनौ भुनक्तु सह वीर्यं करवावहै तेजस्विनावधीतमस्तु मा विद्विषावहै। ॐ शान्तिः शान्तिः शान्तिः। सदाशिवसमारम्भां शङ्कराचार्यमध्यमाम् अस्मदाचार्यपर्यन्तां वन्दे गुरुपरम्पराम्। ॐ पार्थाय प्रतिबोधितां भगवता नारायणेन स्वयं व्यासेन ग्रथितां पुराणमुनिना मध्ये महाभारतम् अद्वैतामृतवर्षिणीं भगवतीम् अष्टादशाध्यायिनीम् अम्ब त्वामनुसन्दधामि भगवद्गीते भवद्वेषिणीम्। यं ब्रह्मा वरुणेन्द्ररुद्रमरुतः स्तुन्वन्ति दिव्यैस्तवैः वेदैः साङ्गपदक्रमोपनिषदैः गायन्ति यं सामगाः ध्यानावस्थिततन्गतेन मनसा पश्यन्ति यं योगिनः यस्यान्तं न विदुःसुरासुरगणाः देवाय तस्मै नमः देवाय तस्मै। नास्ति बुद्धिरयुक्तस्य न चायुक्तस्य भावना न चाभावयतः शान्तिः अशान्तस्य कुतः सुखम्। So this is verse number 66. So we are in the final portion of this second chapter, dealing with this sthita prajna, the person, which means a person who has attained this self-knowledge, who has assimilated self-knowledge, and converting knowledge into a emotional strength. And in this sthita prajna section, Bhagavan presented two topics. We discussed that one is how a person can convert his knowledge, that is prajna, into sthita prajna. So well abided knowledge. So how can we convert? The means of converting this knowledge into the wisdom. So a person can become a wise person. That is one topic. And the next topic is sthita prajna lakshanam. The first topic was sthita prajna sadhanam, how to become sthita prajna, how to become a wise person. For that the means have been shown. And the second topic here in this section is the natural traits of a person who is establishing this knowledge. So two topics are there, and of these two topics, sthita prajna lakshanam was discussed from verse number 55 to 57, and sthita prajna sadhanam from verse 58 to verse 68. And right now we are in verse 66. And so we are right now discussing basically the means. Knowledge we have, but how to convert that knowledge fruitful, and how to become a wise person. etc. How to become, how to get that freedom, basically. So, first 3 verses are on Lakshanam in this section, and 11 verses for sadhana. So that's what right now we are discussing. We are discussing sadhana right now. So 58 to 68, we are in verse number 66. So Bhagavan says, Nasti buddhihi ayuktasya buddhihi nasti, ayuktasya bhavana nasti, abhavataya shantihi nasti, ashantasya sukham nasti. Bas, that's all. The four parts are there. So ayuktasya, so of course we have seen that, I mean we have seen the meaning, literal meaning of the verse. So ayuktasya basically means who doesn't have shama or dama, one whose mind is undisciplined, whose sense organs are not disciplined. So there is no sensory control, there is no control over mind, there is no regulation of mind also. Such a person is called ayukta. And Bhagavan has used the word yukta several places. Even in the 6th chapter also he has used yukta hara viharasya, yukta cheshtasya karmasu, yukta swapnava bodhasya, yogo bhavati dukkha, etc. Well, so yukta means one who has a certain regulation over one's own senses and the mind. And so Bhagavan is right now discussing the means of getting the wisdom. I mean our knowledge, to how to establish in the knowledge, and so we can become a wise person. So highlighting shamaha and damaha exercises, sensory and mind control has been discussed here. So these disciplines are very, very important at every stage of spiritual sadhana. Let's see the first, ayuktasya buddhi nasti. Buddhi means knowledge. Ayuktasya, the person who does not have a sensory control. Just a minute. The person who does not have a sensory control or a regulation of a mind, even Shravanam will not be useful. That's what Bhagavan says. Jnanam will not take place. There is a question of abiding into knowledge. The knowledge itself will not take place. Ayuktasya buddhihi nasti. Ayuktasya jnanam nasti. The person who is undisciplined, well, for him knowledge will not take place. And I have given you an example. Just because you are a person, let me say, if I am attending a class, then well, my mind is here in this place. May not be in the outside this place. But here also in this place, maybe in the classroom, I may not be with the words of the teacher. I may be seeing something else. Oh, this person has come. Oh, he stays far away from my place. How come he comes? Whether he comes by car or what, then I can get a ride. Oh, what? I mean, any kind of thing can happen. And even if you are focusing on the teacher, sometime you focus on the teacher. Today, I think Swamiji looks very tired. Maybe what has happened, might not have got enough sleep or what. And these people take sannyasa. How do they take sannyasa? I don't know. I should ask Swamiji, who was his teacher who gave a sannyas diksha. I wanted to ask him after the class. So his mind is not with the words of teacher, I mean. And so basically, how can he gain knowledge? So words should be there along with the he is teaching Bhagavad Gita or whatever it may be, any teacher. Well, then words, I should follow the words. I should definitely have a concentration on the words of the teacher. It is unlike Ramayana. The Puja Swamiji used to tell often that it is quite different. Gita Shravanam is quite different from Ramayana Shravanam. So Ramayana, even if you don't have a concentration, well, you can leave the topic and in between and wander somewhere and then come back. Still Rama will be in the forest because he was in the forest for 14 years. So at least 14 days this topic will go on. Maybe, I don't know. But then basically you can pick up. Even if you go and come back after 1 hour or something, generally because this Ramayana etc., that katha goes on for 3-4 hours. And so you can go and still you can pick up the thread. There is no problem. But Gita Shravanam is not like that. It's a very tight subject. Basically needs very much concentration, and therefore if concentration is not there, well, it's going to be very tough, very tough. So that's how knowledge will not take place. The person whose mind is wandering and the one whose senses are wandering, well, definitely knowledge will not take place. Because every moment here a topic is built. Every stage the topic is built, and that's how. And if you come to the next class, you will find that then the teacher builds little more. Then in the third class he builds little more, and that is how the topic is built. And therefore, definitely, if our concentration is not there in the Shravanam itself, knowledge will not take place. And so, they give a Lakshanam of a Vidyarthi that Swami Chinmayaji used to tell. That the person who is a Vidyarthi, who is a student, should have this qualification. What? Kaka Drashti, Bhagadhyanam, Shvana Nidra, Tataivacha, Alpaharam, Jeena Vastram, Evam Vidyarthi Lakshanam. So Vidyarthi should have this characteristic. What is that? Kaka Drashti, he should have a concentration like a crow. Kaka is always have that kind of a drashti. And Bhagadhyanam, like a crane, which is, standing in the water itself and looking for a fish. And you might have seen that we also say sometime that, this, he is literally doing a dhyanam. He will not move his head also, waiting for the fish, in the water. And as the fish comes, he just puts its beak and brings out. So Bhagadhyanam, Shvana Nidra, so like a dog. Just a minute. So like a dog only, he should sleep. Matlab short sleep. So Vidyarthi has this first three Lakshanam. First is Kaka Drashti, next is Bhagadhyanam. He should have a concentration like a Drashti, basically vision. His eye should be like a crow. Bhagadhyanam, he should have a concentration like a crane. And Shvana Nidra, he should have basically a short sleep. Then what? Alpaharam means Alpaharam. Very difficult, of course. Adhika Aharam is very important. Alpaharam. And that's what Bhagavan told in 6th chapter. Yukta Ahara Viharasya. Alpaharam means, you will, if you take more, definitely food, then you will doze. And therefore, you should have a moderate food so that you can concentrate on the studies. Then Jeena Vastram. Jeena means as such worn. Jru Dhatu is there. From that the word has come Jara, if you remember, old age, right? So Jeernam, Vasamsi Jirnani Yathaviha, if you remember. So not but here worn out. Jeena Vastram means basically simple life, simple dress, etc. Not a flashy life. So Evam Vidyarthi Lakshanam, that is how it has been defined. Evam Vidyarthi Lakshanam. And when Swamiji used to tell also, let anybody walk across. Even if somebody gets up and walk across through you, your eyes should not move. So right from beginning to end, this is how one should study, and then definitely one can gain knowledge. So ayuktasya buddhihi nasti. The person who does not have a sensory control and who doesn't have a regulation of the mind, he cannot, his Shravanam itself will not be fruitful. And therefore Mananam also will not be fruitful. If Shamaha and Damaha are not there, how will you reflect? You want to reflect on the teaching, but basically material should be there in your mind. Shravanam itself is not, has taken place very properly, then there is a question of Mananam. And so, Shamaha and Damaha, if they are not there, Ayuktasya, then definitely Buddhihi Nasti. Then what is said? It has been said here that Ayuktasya Bhavana Api Nasti. Ayuktasya Bhavana Nasti. Bhavana means you cannot do a contemplation, Nididhyasana. So, Prajna, if Shravanam, Mananam will not be there, Prajna itself is not possible. Buddhi means Prajna itself is not possible. And Ayuktasya Bhavana Api Nasti. Without sense control and mind control, Nididhyasam itself will not be fruitful. And therefore, this is Vedantic meditation. Chapter 6 of the Bhagavad Gita talks about that. Almost, I think, 47 or so odd verses are there, which talks about this Atmadhyanam or Nididhyasanam, which Bhagavan calls here as a bhavana. So Ayuktasya Buddhi Nasti, when one who doesn't have a Shama and Dama, for him these two will not take place. Shravanam and Mananam will not take place. Shravanam Mananam basically is called Jnanam. and Nididhyasanam is a Jnana Nishtha basically. And therefore, well, so Buddhihi Nasti and Bhavana api Nasti. So that is what has been told. And therefore, if a person does not practice Shravana Manana Nididhyasanam, then what will be the consequence? He wants to practice, but because his mind and senses are not under control, that is why this three has not taken place. And therefore, well, there is a question. The knowledge itself is not there. Then abhavayataha shanti api nasti. For a person who has not practiced all the three, actually abhavataya means, bhavana means a contemplation, and bhavayat means the one who does a contemplation. Abhavayat means who does not do contemplation, one who does not do nididhyasana. But nididhyasanam can only take place one who has done successful shravanam and mananam. Knowledge should be there to dwell upon. In nididhyasanam, knowledge itself has not taken place because his mind was wandering, senses are wandering, and therefore that itself has not taken place. Where is the question of contemplation? And therefore abhavataya means actually the one who is not able to do contemplation. But you can tell all together also, one who has not done Shravana, Mananam and Nididhyasanam properly. Such a person is called, for such a person, abhavataya is a sixth case. And therefore for such a person, Shantihi api nasti. Well, peace of the mind is not possible. In fact, so Gita study etc. is academic pursuit. In as much as here also we use a word class. We never use a word pravachanam. Pujya Swamiji also used a word all the time class. He was, 1 minute. So, discourse and pravachanam and upanyasam, and we never use. We use simple one word, class. Class means it is like a class in the university. That's academic pursuit. This also is academic pursuit. I mean, academic pursuit means it has something more than academic. But it is, I want to compare with that. It is exactly, there also professor builds a topic daily. Whenever you attend class, you will find he is building a topic. Then next class he goes further. Next class he goes further. Same thing we are also doing. But then difference still is there between the university class and this class. I mean between the pursuit of other knowledges and pursuit of this knowledge. Well, the difference is it talks about, this knowledge talks about the self, and therefore you will find the whole knowledge is applicable, centered on the self, and therefore actually it brings a transformation in yourself. When in that knowledge you need not have a transformation. A person may be all kind of bad habits. Let's say he drinks alcohol, he smokes, he may be taking drugs, but could be a brilliant student. A student of a physics can be a brilliant student. Yeah, and he is not required to give up his habits. Really. You may say in general that he should give up habit, but that's okay. It does not come in his way of pursuing physics. Many people, good intellectual people, and pursuing many good things academically, well, sometimes they were having bad habits also. But that is not the requirement that they should change their habits, etc. Here it will not take place. Here what the knowledge, what it wants to give a benefit, that knowledge of course, gives a benefit of transforming once the person who is involved in pursuing the knowledge. He himself gets transformed. And therefore, even though it looks like an academic pursuit, but still the purpose here of this pursuing knowledge is total transformation of the way I look at life, the way I look at the world, etc. The way I look at myself, and that transformation brings definitely peace of the mind. And that is how any intellectual pursuits you will find. People may be very, very intelligent, but may be highly, you can say, ashanta, means highly, their minds are maybe very, very disturbed and emotionally fragile. We have already discussed this thing. Intellectually, if you grow, it doesn't mean you are grown emotionally. Otherwise, how come such an intelligent person can commit a suicide? Why should it commit a suicide? But their emotional maturity is something entirely different thing. So here, even though it looks exactly like pursuing an academically, I mean, we are also having a classes and everything, building the topics, creating a context and proper meaning of the words and etc. etc. And still, basically, the person who is involved, the student himself, the benefit of this knowledge is transformation of the student itself, where in other pursuits that kind of a thing is not required. So Gita study appears academic, but the benefits are totally, very practical benefit, and this practical benefit is nothing but Bhagavan says Shantihi Gacchati. I mean Shantihi Prapnoti. So Arjuna, if you want a permanent peace of the mind, assimilate this teaching of the Bhagavad Gita, etc. So abhavayataha Shantihi Nasti. Bhavayati, and that has come from word bhavana, means contemplation. Bhavayati means he contemplates. Saha bhavayati, he contemplates. They made a present participle of that bhavayati, verb, and it is bhavayat, means one who contemplates. Abhavayat, one who does not contemplate. Abhavayatah, for the person who does not contemplate. So that is how the meaning of the words. Anyway, abhavayatah shanti nasti, he will not have shanti of the mind. I mean, he does not have a peace of the mind. So, ashantasya kutas sukham, in the last portion, Bhagavan says, ashantasya kutas sukham, without peace of the mind. Where is the question of Atma Ananda? Because Atma Ananda only reflects in the mind which is calm, right? Puja Swami used to call that, then Ananda, basically Atma is reflecting in the mind. But the nature of Atma, which is Ananda, fullness, etc., gets reflected in the Shanta Vritti. Shanta Vritti, when mind is calm, basically. Like, it is very simple to understand. Just like if you want to see a reflection in a mirror, or in a mirror or in a water, wherever. So what type of reflecting surface you require? Well, basically, suppose if I have a mirror in my hand and you are trying to see your image in that. But if I keep moving the mirror like this or like this, so you are not able to see. Or the water also, if it is not a very calm surface of the water, if it is very agile, you will not be able to see. You are seeing your face all right, but not proper. That's what I want to convey. Does not mean that it does not form an image at all. It forms an image, but distorted. Same way, the mind, which is basically is a calm, then as you are reflected. And if it is not calm, then definitely, Ananda, which is nothing but yourself, will not be reflected as though. And therefore, the Bhagavan says, Ashantasya kutas sukham. Well, how he is going to get this sukham or Ananda? That is, here the Ananda means Atma Ananda. Even if you get a peace, through other methods, there will never be a permanent peace of the mind. It's not that of course, if I don't have a regulation of mind and senses, I never experience the peace. If basically person has a lot of ambitions and desires and what not. So many kamas are there, ragadveshas are there, all those things are there. Whole day it keeps on bubbling. But still, the word. Whenever I say Shanti, you are agreeing with me because you have experience. Otherwise, you will say, what is that? Shanti means what? I have never experienced what kind of a thing it is. But you have experience. So, basically, what I am saying is, through some other means also, you have gained peace of the mind. Let's accept it. You may not have sensory control, you may not have a control of the mind, etc., regulated mind. And yet, you are able to experience the peace. It's not so. But it is temporary. We have to make this division here. So, Ashantasya kutas sukham means here permanent peace. If you want of a mind, definitely you should have a control over, or you should regulate your senses and mind. So, you should be yuktaha. You should be yogi. Bhagavan uses sometimes yuktaha and Bhagavan sometimes uses word yogi also. So, yuj dhatu. Yuj dhatu is past passive participle is yuktaha. One who is endowed with, like that. One who is endowed with yoga is yuktaha. Or one who is having yoga is called yogi. Same way. It's same thing. And here yoga means nothing but a regulation of this karanas. So, and the temporary peace, etc., it's our experience also. Like you go to ashram and then you definitely feel that, you experience a peace, but that is temporary. And that is why when you go back to home, then you tell to your friend that I experienced peace there. So, but you use a past tense. I experienced the peace. That indicates what? That it is past. And right now you are tense. So you have to divide now past tense. You divide the past tense. Past, so you have experienced peace, it is past, and right now you are tense. So anyway, so basically temporary. All this is temporary. And temporary is temporary. What is your problem, Swami? We are experiencing temporary peace. Why you have to advise us like this? Or why Bhagavan has to advise us? But sir, you don't want temporary peace. You want peace all the time. 24/7, multiply 365, multiply whatever. You want peace all the time. And therefore, that is your wish. I mean, that is your desire. It's an innate desire, natural desire. Natural desire reflects something, you know. Natural desire reflects that it should have a solution. Because it is nature. Natural desire means it is a nature. Nature of what? Nature of yourself, because you want. You want from the birth to death. In between all the time you want Shanti. But that must be your nature then. Okay. So this is how it is. Anyway, so if I want Sukha 24/7, multiply 365, multiply, then definitely I want a permanent Sukha, I want a permanent Shanti, I want permanent freedom from sense of limitation, means this must be my nature. That's all we should say. Then only it is possible. Anything which I seek permanently will not be available from outside world. This is simple. If it is available from outside world, means it right now I don't have. I will be getting sometime in the future. If it is bound by time, it's a simple rule we have. Certain simple rules we have, we always bring out from the pocket and keep it. And then even scientists cannot, they get baffled. Sometimes when we say like this, they get baffled because they have never thought like this. Because whatever comes in your life in future will go also in future. Anything which comes in time goes in time. And therefore leaves you, leaves you vulnerable. I tell you. That's how samsari is a vulnerable person. Vulnerable to emotions, vulnerable to all things. Vulnerable to world. One should not be vulnerable to world. But I am vulnerable to world. Oh, this person basically he lives in the same world. This person, what we are talking right now about that person. For him there is no Swarga comes down. No Swarga comes down. He lives in the same world. And not is an exception. Don't think so. We have a whole tradition. We have so many wise people, they all lived in the same world and they have not changed the world, and that world is not going to change also. I'm going to talk about in verse 69. It is not going to change. He lives in the same world. He has changed his perception towards the world. And he has changed the perception towards the world by changing the perception of oneself. That's the only way to be happy is changing the perception of myself. Thereby I change the perception of the world, because whenever you transact with the world, you have a perception about yourself. When I transact with my son, definitely in my eye I am a father, etc. Anyway, so basically we'll discuss that. Anyway, so this nobody wants a temporary peace, and therefore Bhagavan says, if you want a permanent peace, I'm showing you how can you get that peace and joy. Ashantasya kuta sukham means sukham also. How can you get it? You will have to work upon. And if you work upon it, it's not available free. And definitely, if it is available free, you will not have even value also of it. And therefore it takes time. But this is the only way to get. And Kathopanishad also said, Tesham shantihi shashvati naitaresham shashvati shantihi tesham jnaninam. So shashvati shanti, a permanent peace, is available to those jnanis. Naitaresham. Very clearly Yamaraja told, naitaresham, not to others. And therefore your heart is seeking since the birth that permanent peace. Well, then I am showing you, Bhagavan says, I am showing you. And Yamaraja also showed to Nachiketa, and here Bhagavan is telling us, well, Ashantasya kutas, Ashantasya kutas shukam, and he will not get even a joy also. Let's go further. Indriyanam hi charatam yanmano vidhiyate tadasya harati prajnam vayurnavamivambhasi. So, Bhagavan is telling here, Indriyanam hi charatam yanmano nuvidhiyate tadasya harati prajnam vayurnavami vambhasi. He means verily. Tad manaha, that mind, the mind which is definitely which is not under one's own control, that mind. Yad anuvidhiyate, which follows, which goes behind, to whom? Charatam indriyanam. It goes behind the sense organs. What kind of a sense organ? Charatam. Charadhatu has a meaning to move. Charadhatu has a meaning to graze also. So charanam. So ashva charati means a horse grazes, like that. Anyway, so charatam indriyanam, the wandering. Like whenever you have seen basically all the cattle and everything, when they are eating the grass etc. in the field, they move in any direction. Anyway, so charatam indriyanam, the wandering sense organs, the mind also follows that. Harati prajnam, and then it carries away what? Prajnam, his knowledge. Asya means asya purushasya, asya sadhakasya, asya mumukshoho, of this person, of this mumukshu, wisdom of that person also, asya prajnam harati, the wisdom of that person also is carried away. And Bhagavan gives an example. Vayuhu, whenever eva comes, you have to understand its example. And the best translation for eva is like. Like what? Like the Vayuhu, like that wind, Navam, the boat, Ambasi, on the waters, Harati. We have to supply that, of course, because this is a verse. So it is not like a sentence. It's not a prose. So definitely, so Vayuhu eva Navam Ambasi Harati, just as the wind, takes away the boat on the waters, same way, the person's wisdom also is to carried away. So wisdom is compared here with the boat. And so we'll see that now. So the mind which follows the wandering sense organs carries away the wisdom of that person, just as the wind carries away the boat on the waters. Ambasi is a plural, so we have to use word waters. As such, it's a collective noun. Basically, Ambaha is sufficient. But Bhagavan is saying on the waters, Ambasi. Anyway, Ambaha, Ambasi, Ambamsi, etc. These are the form. But anyway, so Krishna emphasizes sense control in this following two shlokas, the 67 and 68. I have told you, verse 58 to 68 is the topic. In this Sthita Prajna section, verse 58 to 68, 11 verses talk about the means. For a means of how a person can convert his knowledge or how a person can abide into knowledge and become a wise person. For that, what are the means? Those means have been talked about. We call as a Sthita Prajna sadhana. He is a prajna. He has already done Shravan Mananam or he is doing Shravan Mananam, but he expects that this knowledge should percolate in my personality, etc. Then definitely he should have this kind of a means. What are the means we are seeing? Three things we have already, I have told you three things. One is we should have a regulation of senses, regulation of mind, and nididhyasanam. Three things are required. And now in that topic, only two verses are left. 58 to 68 I have told you. Verse number 67 and 68 definitely describe this sadhanam also. And Bhagavan gives here example also of that boat. So if sense control is not there, Dhamma is not there, it will not allow this Atmajnanam to arise in the mind, of course. And if it arises, it will not allow you to get abided into that knowledge. So if I even choose to But that Bhagavan himself told ayuktasya buddhihi nasti, ayuktasya jnanam api nasti, that we just discussed. So in such case, if I choose to listen to some talks of Mahatmas, etc., well, my sense organs, if they are roving or they are wandering, etc., and wandering eyes, wandering ears, and the mind also, maybe eyes may be there on the teacher, but wandering somewhere else. So it will not, that mind, such a mind, or even the senses which are wandering, will not allow me to listen consistently. And then jnanam does not arise at all. So there will be gaps. If whenever listening is there will be gaps in that. I will tell you. And what kind of a gap it is. Like old cassettes. I remember our Swami, we cassettes. Earlier we used to all record on the cassettes. And once they are recorded in the cassettes and they are too old, and we have made we have made a copy of those cassettes, in other cassettes I mean. Then sometime cassettes, original cassette, we used to erase also. So we had a eraser. Swami, we has brought a eraser for us. And we used to erase. Because it's a magnetic tape. So I think maybe on a magnet or something it was, you keep it for some time on both the sides. And you are able to erase the content. I mean the old lectures. And then you can utilize that, TDK on Sony and all that good cassettes. We used to utilize again. But what happens is, after you do that, then we sometimes check it in the tape recorder, that whether it has erased or not. And to our surprise, sometimes it should be blank, and therefore it runs blank. But in between some two, three words come. And then again it is blank. Another 2-3 words come. So means it has not erased completely. So we will put again. So same way our mind also is like that. If our mind is wandering all over, it is like this old cassette which has erased, but not erased totally. And so basically few things in the class we have registered, and mostly jokes are registered. And and therefore, if you ask what your Swami has taught to you in class today, he said, Siddha Prajna action and this verse 67 and 68 he is taking. And then he said, what did he say? So you will remember first the joke. And then you tell the joke, the person laughs, but the person is intelligent. He asked then in which context he talked about that joke. That context you did not remember. Only joke part you remember. So it is like an old cassette in which, the few words here and there appear even after erasing. Same thing is our mind also. It's a magnetic tape. It has to record entire lecture. But because it's moving around, and senses sometimes are moving around, when senses move around, the mind, manaha anuvidiyate. So mind also follows it. And therefore it's not available for the Shravanam. Right now the Shravanam may be going on in the class, but it's not available. And that joke comes and then everyone laughs and you also. Or maybe a joke has started and you have paid attention, whatever. I mean, this is how it is. So basically the mind which follows the sensory organs, then the registration itself, the knowledge itself, it does not take place. And even if the knowledge takes place, Bhagavan says, the wisdom of that person or the knowledge of that person carries away. It is carried away. Anyway, so Indriyanam hi charatam yan manaha anuvidiyate. Well, suppose the sense organs are wandering, and here charatam, as I told you, it's like a grazing cow which moves all over. And similarly, the sense organs are also, that is how the sense organs are always compared with that, horses, etc. If you remember in Kathopanishad, it has been compared with the horses. So just as the horses graze in the field, and they go here and there in any direction, it's not well directed. They are not well directed. Same way the sense organs are called now charatam, means they are also grazing in the respective objects. And they are wandering, grazing without my permission. No horse or a cow come to you that, okay, you are my master. Now on which direction I should go. So they never come. Same way here also, my sense organs, the 5 horses, they don't take my permission. And when they don't take my permission, my will, if it is not behind that, it is going to be dangerous. So charanam here, so Bhagavan has used word charanam. Charanam is they can go anywhere without your consent. Manaha anuvidiyate, well, and the mind also, it takes away the mind along with that. Mind also wanders along with that. And therefore, well, definitely this thing will happen. And what will happen if sense organs are wandering? Well, then mind also is wandering. And then definitely knowledge will not take place. Or if knowledge takes place, that knowledge is robbed away by these two, by the senses and the mind. Tasya prajnam harati, well, it will rob away. It carries away the Atma Jnanam, and that is why, well, receiving the knowledge during Shravanam also, if it is not available during the day-to-day affairs, the robber, we should understand, the robbers have taken away it. Basically, here in Shravanam and Mananam has given you the knowledge. Then in Nididhyasanam, it should be available to you. And therefore, even if the wisdom is there, and somehow you have got a clarity, etc. Sometimes our people's mind is so brilliant. Even they pay little less attention, still they grasp the whole thing. And therefore, even if you ask them, they tell you the purport of the entire lecture. But when the person sits in meditation or Atma Dhyana, well, because his senses are still wandering and mind is wandering, it will not allow the mind, the knowledge, well, of course, will not, this knowledge will not, is not, I mean, it's not get established for the person. So he will not have a nishtha. To convey this idea, Bhagavan gave this example, and suppose a person is traveling in a boat, and he is supposed to decide, well, the direction of the travel, and for that he should have certain controlling things, you know. He should have a clarity in which direction he has to go, and he should have a controlling thing so that he can take the boat in a given direction. But if he is not going to control the boat, suppose well, then what will happen? Well, the wind will, vayu ambasi harati. So the wind which is blowing, well, it takes away the boat in any direction it wants. And wind is not going to take permission of you. So whether to go west, south, etc., it doesn't take your permission. Wind will take in various direction, and so that's one thing. But wind will take to a direction in which, you know, there is a whirlpool or some dangerous place. Then even the boat may capsize also. So therefore, this example is a very apt example. So just as the wind takes away the boat and destroys the boat and the traveler of the boat, who was traveling in the boat, of course, same way this wavered mind and these sense organs, well, carries the boat of the knowledge, and along with the knowledge it destroys the individual also. But Swamiji, where destruction of the individual is not there. Buddhi nashat pranashyati. Remember, dhyayato vishayan pumsaha, and sangasteshu pajayate, sangat sanjayate kamaha, kamat krodho vijayate, krodhat bhavati sammohaha, sammohat smriti vibhramaha, smriti bhramshat buddhinashat pranashyati. So ultimately, our sense organs and the mind together will destroy the person. It takes away the boat of my knowledge, and which is there after so many years of listening, and mananam also. Lot of his knowledge is clear, free from the doubt, but he could not sit in meditation because the senses are not under control. And when the senses graze in the field to the respective objects, takes away the mind also along with that. And when mind itself is not available, where is the knowledge available for nishtha? So gone. So vayu navam ima ambasi. So vayu is compared, to the wavered mind, and navam is that boat compared to the jnana. Knowledge is called boat. We have seen that sarvam jnana plavenaiva vrujinam santarishyasi. If you remember, I think it's in 4th chapter. Sarvam jnana plavenaiva. Bhagavan said this jnanam is plavaha. Plavaha means boat. Plavaha means a small boat is called plavaha. So, knowledge is compared to the boat because knowledge takes a person across the ocean of samsara. That is why you always compare with the boat. Well, a wavered mind, will destroy the boat of knowledge. And when the boat of knowledge is destroyed, the traveler, I also is destroyed. Buddhinashat pranashyati. So I mean, I am not fit. I will not be fit for moksha purushartha. I will not gain moksha. Even though knowledge is there, I will not gain moksha. Just because these two things are not there. Shamaha and damaha. So, lack of mind and sense regulation. Well, if lack of sense regulation, if these two things are there, then definitely, well, one will not gain moksha. Instead, one will get destroyed. Bas, that's all. And then the last verse, now Bhagavan concludes this topic. Let's see that. Tasmad yasya mahabaho nigruhitani sarvashah indriyani indriyarthebhyah tasya prajna pratisthita. Hey Mahabaho, O Arjuna, Tasmat. So Bhagavan is concluding. Whenever you find a Tasmat, you should understand that a given topic is concluding now. Therefore, Tasmat means therefore. Prajna tasya or tasya prajna, either way. The knowledge of that person, tasya means tasya purushasya, tasya mumukshoho. Well, the person who wants moksha, one who is pursuing shravana mananam, etc. Tasya prajna, well, his knowledge of that person. Yes, yasya indriyani, whose sense organs, sarvashah nigrihitani, well, are completely withdrawn, indriyarthebhyah, from the sense objects, well, pratisthita, his knowledge will abide. So, Bhagavan here shows the condition. O Arjuna, the knowledge of that person whose sense organs are completely withdrawn from the sense objects becomes firm. But where Swamiji completely? Sarvashah Bhagavan has said. So it is under regulation. We'll see that. Krishna concludes this, the section I told you, Sthita Prajna Sadhana. Two topics are there. Sthita Prajna Sadhana means to become Sthita Prajna, and Sthita Prajna Lakshana, and characteristic of a wise person. Both the topics are there, and we are now concluding the Sthita Prajna Sadhana, means how to become a Sthita Prajna. I am gaining knowledge, Swamiji, but it is not practical, it is not percolating, etc. etc. I am not gaining the benefit of the knowledge, even though I am pursuing Lord. In a day I am listening 6 hours and 3 hours and 5 hours and etc. And I am sitting in meditation also. Some people told me also. So I am sitting in meditation also, Swamiji. Don't tell me that you are not sitting in Nididhyasana. I will not allow you to give me any kind of excuse. Yeah, but if you are even sitting in the meditation, well, yan manaha anuvidhiyate charatam indriyanam. So if your mind is, runs behind the senses, and the senses are just grazing in the field of the objects, sense objects, then in that case, that meditation is not going to be benefited. So, now this is the last verse in that topic. So, Bhagavan says, Tasmat, since sense control play a very, very important role in spiritual growth, yasya indriyani nigrihitani, the seeker's sense organ must be restrained. Nigrihitani indriyani. Nigrihitam, nigraha. We know that. We know this word. Indriya nigraha means restrain, control. So, here basically, Bhagavan, don't think. This word has brought a lot of problem. Sarvashaha nigrihitani. All the way it should be under control. Means Bhagavan is as though talking about the suppression of the sense organ. It's a very big misconception that suppression is prescribed in a Eastern philosophy. That's a wrong concept. Most of the, the psychologists in the West, they study the Eastern religion, and they borrow so many ideas. If you see the videos of Rajiv Malhotra, you will find what are the ideas they have borrowed from here, and they put on their own name. I don't want to give the names here, but they are very, very big thinkers in United States. They borrow the idea from either Buddhist philosophy or from Indian philosophy, and we have several philosophies. And they borrow the idea and put on their own name and publish the books and earn money and reputation, and this is a big scandal going on. Anyway, the psychologists in the West, basically when they study Eastern religion, they come to observe this kind of a thing that, nigruhitani sarvashaha indriyani. So, suppression. they talk about the suppression of the senses. And then immediately they shout, suppression is a very extremely dangerous thing, and therefore this Eastern religions, etc., they talk something impractical thing, etc. And we definitely so tell about Indriya Nigra, etc., sense control, mind control, but they mistake the control as a suppression. And they are warning the people who pursue Eastern religion that, they don't follow them. If you want to study, study them. But suppression, they talk about suppression and don't try to follow them. It's very, very dangerous, and it will perturb your psychology. And therefore, they have prescribed a new system now. What? Do not suppress, let go. You know very well, a big thinker from the India, you know very well, now he is no more. I don't want to name, but he has also told that there should not be any control of the senses. And then we also have to give a reply. So we also tell them, letting go is equally dangerous. If suppression is dangerous, letting go also is equally dangerous. And therefore, violent and uncontrolled expression, if you say suppression is dangerous, then this violent expression of the senses is equally dangerous also. And so Gita does not prescribe suppression or nor any kind of unintelligent expression. We basically prescribe intelligent regulation. Both the extremes are unintelligent. Prescription of suppression is also unintelligent, and violent expression of the senses also is equally unintelligent. And therefore, basically we say, you regulate your senses. That is the intelligent way of living. And like they give an example, Eastern philosophers give an example, stopping the river is dangerous. And because if you stop a river, definitely there will be a flood, and flash flood will come then. So then if you let the flow of the river, let it flow in its own direction. Well, that is also not proper, because it leads to a waste of the water. Whole water will go into the sea, and therefore into the ocean. And therefore neither you should stop the river, nor you should allow the river to flow in its own direction. Then what should you do? Regulation. And that is what, dam the river and channelize the water and in the direction that you want. So Gita never prescribes, suppression and, nor uncontrolled expression. Gita prescribes a channelization of sensory energy and mental energy by that time. By the same way, if a person has a damaha, I have given you an example of a pot which has 5 holes. If you put a water in that, it will definitely seep away from the 5 holes and not available for, to quench your thirst. Same way, these 5 sense organs are, they are like a holes in the pot called mind. And so if you don't plug them, you don't regulate them properly, then the mind, which has its mental energy, we call it as like a water, will not be available to you for the pursuit of this, spiritual pursuit. And therefore you should plug them properly. You should have a regulation. And plug means we have already discussed all this, that there should be a regulation, because daily you require basically the senses should go to the sense objects in order to run your life. And therefore there should be a regulation. Once it is over, bring back the mind, bring back the senses and put them in a respective place. That's what we have discussed. So basically Gita prescribes a channelization of sensory energy, channelization of a mental energy. And because even scientists also say that we are not utilizing our full mental and intellectual capabilities, mental energies, intellectual energy. It's all dissipated. And we have seen the people who are, suppose somebody is blind or somebody, the people who are by default, they are, basically not able to utilize their senses, and don't send their senses into a particular sense, into a sense object. We have found that I have seen the people who are blind, their mental energy is so high, their absorption capacity and all is so much. Recently I came across one boy of 15-year-old. Of course he is blind from the birth, but he picks up so many things. He is a good singer, and when he sits in our Swami V's class, he's in Rajkot, etc. Anyway, I should tell few things, but anyway, so but he grasped entire lecture, and after that, if they ask certain questions to that boy, 15-year-old boy, he is able to say Swamiji has said in so many words like this. He is a master in computer. He is a master in the instruments, musical instruments, and he sings so beautifully all the bhajans with the instruments. They say in any field, well, he can apply his mental energy because it has not, not dissipated through the senses. Especially through the eyes. And eyes really is one sense which wastes our mental energy maximum, and therefore, thereby, of course, it brings also a lot of data, but sometimes unwanted data, which therefore, well, it is unwanted. I don't want to say much about it. Anyway, by this regulation, we are only sense regulation, etc. We are only tapping our full potential. So it is. Everyone agrees, but they want to somehow object Eastern philosophy, and they get this way of objection. So nigraha means nigraha means here channelization, direction, proper direction, intelligent use of mental energy, and you will find, you feel that this is Swamiji is talking something impractical. When we were a child, I tell you, like a small child, he is lying on the floor. In India, here you may not have that kind of even imagine. But there they used to put one cloth and the child is just there in the floor. And it sees a ant. And then you see, wherever the ant goes, his eyes and his head also turn that side. And you call that child, oh, Babu, Babu, Babu. But Babu doesn't listen at all. He doesn't listen. Whatever you call. Even if you shout, it will not give any attention to that. His whole mind and even the eye also is on that direction. What an amount of concentration the child has. It's amazing. And not at all disturbed by whatever you are shouting. But anyway, so it's an ant concentration. Child has an end concentration. So we have that capacity, and not only that, their mind is considered as a photographic mind. Children's minds are photographic. Whatever you tell them, they will start repeating it. If they advertisement song, if they hear, they repeat advertisement song. If you give them if you teach them Bhagavad Gita, etc., they will repeat Bhagavad Gita. That shows that mental energy is so much because, they have that concentration capacity, because their senses are, raga dveshas are very, very less, and therefore their senses and the mind are still available to them to a great extent. And therefore we have that capacity in the childhood, of course. But as we grew, something happened and we lost the concentration. Something happened means our raga dvesha basically. I don't want to bring that thing into picture because that's not under discussion. But ultimately, our senses, they are not under control, our mind is not under control because of that, these two shatrus. So, so definitely this is what Bhagavan said, Tasya prajna pratishthita, one who has that, a person, a seeker, should master the sense organs and regulate his mind. Then, Tasya prajna pratishthita, then he can receive the knowledge, and knowledge will be assimilated also. And that is how Bhagavan showed, the sadhanam, means how the knowledge which you have gained already through Shravanam and Mananam, how in a Nididhyasanam will be available to you, and you can get an abundance in the knowledge. You can also become, you are a prajnaha, you should call yourself as a jnani. People get ashamed. Oh, Swamiji is calling me a jnani. No, Swamiji, no, please. No, please, I am Ajnani. Sir, you are 20 years, you are listening. You know everything. What is Satyam, what is Mithya, what is Brahman, what is Jiva, what is Jagat, what is all the Prakriya, everything you know. Why are you not calling Jnani? You are a Jnani. But your Jnanam does not have abidance in you. Then Nididhyasanam is required, and in Nididhyasanam, these two big obstacles which does not allow you your knowledge to be abided in yourself, then knowledge will be assimilated with these obstacles go. So Shamaha and Damaha removes the obstacle, and then Nididhyasanam is also required. And these three, if you remember, we have talked, these three sadhanams are there to convert, to convert your knowledge into an abidance. So prajna becomes sthita prajna. That is what it has been told. Now last 4 verses, well, of course, again Bhagavan switch over to the topic of sthita prajna lakshan. What are the characteristics of a wise person? How does he perceive this world? Same world, but how does he perceive? So Bhagavan is comparing, very beautiful. Bhagavan is going to compare this Jnani with Ajnani, and you know very well the particular verse also. All the time they quote this 69 and 78th verse. Both are very, very important verse. And the last 4 verses has been talked about. They talk about wise person's characteristic. We'll see that. Om Purnamadah Purnamidam Purnat Purnamudachyate Purnasya Purnamadaya Purnamevavashishyate. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. Harihi Om Shri Gurubhyo Namaha. Harihi Om.